one of my all-time favorites. He now works for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but we will always remember him as a great leader, just not a great player, but a great leader in the clubhouse for the Oakland Athletics. Jonny Gomes joins us. Johnny, how are you? It's been a while.
Townsend, you're still on a damn rant, and I love to be a part of it.
Well, let me tell you something. You and I see eye to eye in a lot of ways. And, today, since we're doing the Diamondbacks, I going into this, I think what I loved about it, and, Torey Lovello comes on this show. He's a former A. We bring him on. Great dude. But we talked about how they flipped their mentality in the second half to where, playing this 3 true outcome game, home runs, strikeouts, walks, everybody has that blueprint. Didn't work for them. That all of a sudden, hey, we got to start stealing bases. We got to start manufacturing runs. We got to find different ways to win. You have always been that guy. You've been that. I don't care how we do it. Let's win. Let's come to the ballpark to win every single day. Talk about that mentality that has always been your mentality, and we're really seeing that with not only the Diamondbacks, but we should be seeing that with the A's too.
Yeah, to start with the Diamondbacks, what you really got to do first and foremost is tip your hat to their scouting department and how they drafted, right? You want to go to Corbin Carroll, draft pick. Al Thomas, draft pick. Jake McCarthy, draft pick. They just shipped off Darshow, draft pick. They really went deep into the draft, did their homework. The guys, boots on the ground, did all their homework, and went and got athletic dudes. They went and got left-handed outfielders that can play all 3 positions, can steal bags, and 30-30, we'll see. But you know what? Power with speed is going to win today.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think about what they got when you start talking about Zach Allen and what he did last year. Merrill Kelly is one of the great stories because we're seeing this thoracic outlet syndrome. Guys have it, and it basically takes their career. It's sad. He's one of the success stories of having over 200 innings after having the surgery. So when you start looking around and then you start looking at some of these young guys that they got, Nelson, Jameson, you start looking at a starting rotation. I see if there is going to be a falter by the Dodgers or the Padres at the top of this division, I can see at least a blueprint of how the Diamondbacks with pitching and athleticism could be in the hunt.
Yeah, when you talk about Merrill Kelly and you talk about, Gowan, that kind of takes away the velocity too, right? These guys are sitting at 90 to 94 all game. They're not the huge spin rate. They're not the high velocity guys. They're the strike throwers, weak contact, pitch late into the game, hand it over in the 7th, hand it over in the 8th, right? So, pitching and defense is going to win. And again, the athletic ability that they are putting on the field night in and night out, limit the strikeouts. There's a lot of ways to play the game to where you can win. And there's even more ways to play the game to lose. You got to limit ways to lose. You got to limit errors, right? You got to limit walks. You got to limit balls right down the middle. You got to limit stolen bases by how? Hold the ball. Right? There's a lot of simple things that you can do. There's about 5 things that you just don't want to do, and whatever else happens, right? Find that culture. You're the walk-off team, or you're the score weight team, or you're the get-ahead team, or you're the do damage team, or you're the get the starter out because of the pitch count. You got to find that identity, stick to it, create a winning mentality, and just let your guys go and play.
Well, and you talked about athleticism. People, I'm sure most people haven't done their fantasy drafts yet, but this Carroll kid, he's been the top prospect in baseball. They're already saying 30-30. Those are high expectations, but you've seen him. Tell us how good this kid really can be.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, if he was 3 inches taller, it'd be like, this is Bryce Harper. It really would. He doesn't have the 500-foot home run power, but he's got every bit, whatever number is on the board. If it's 340, he's got that power. If it's 400 to center, he's got that power. And he, statistically is the fastest dude in the big leagues. And where we are right now, speed's not going to slump. If you limit your strikeouts, ball and play, we got action. You're running a 3.6, 3.7 down the first, you're going to create panic on the defensive side. And then when he gets on the bases, he's a threat. He's 1 pitch away from being in scoring position after a walk or a single. And, on top of all this, let's just pour the huge bucket of character on this kid. He is checks all the boxes of the character. Great family, great kid, work ethic, nutrition, first there, last to leave, blah, 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 checks all the boxes. I mean, I'll hang my hat on Corbin Carroll all day long.
How important is it, like, knowing what the Dodgers and the Padres have had and what they're going to be? I mean, we're kind of anointing the Padres a little too much. They haven't won the division. They had a great playoff run, but still they've been a wild card team. They haven't won anything yet. Dodgers could be a little bit different. They're missing a lot of pieces, but we'll throw them up there to compete with them. I've been talking about a blueprint of being different. You tell me, if you were the general manager, you were the manager of this team, what does a team like Arizona and a lot like Oakland, what do they have to do to compete with the teams we look at, the big boys atop a division?
Yeah, well, you really don't have to look within the division until September, right? Because that's when it really matters. And this playing your division 19 times throughout the year is gone with how the schedule is. You have to worry about all 29 other teams. You get your DH now, right? So there's a lot of things to worry about. And then, you don't really have to worry about the division until the end, until September, right? You just got to stay in the race, get to the All-Star break, reload, recalibrate, hit that trade deadline, find out where you're at, and then keep going. But you can't look at the scoreboard too early. You have to find that identity, find that team culture, find that chemistry, find out what works, moving pieces. I go back to that 2012 team where we won the division, right? We won that division after a huge trade, after Anaheim loaded with Josh Hamilton and CJ Wilson, and Pujols pops in. And we were just laying in the weeds. And then boom, 16-game comeback in the mid of August, going down the stretch in September with 5 rookie starters, right? Like, there's no excuses, man. If you're in the big leagues, you're good. Limit the mistakes and score more runs than the other team. Touch a dish more than they do. Find a way to do that.
I will tell the fans, they may not remember how everything went down in 2012, but we boarded a plane and went to Japan, lost the first 2 games to the Mariners. We came back home, and opening day, I'm like, I got to have Jonny Gomes as our official, because that wasn't really like an official opening day. Our official opening day in Oakland, you were my pregame show guest, and you said, look out, we're going to win the division. Yeah. And everybody was like, what? And I think about your great career. I think about the couple World Series that you won. But when you look back on it, you were the leader of the team. You helped change the chemistry in the clubhouse, even though front office people want to say there is no such thing as chemistry. Where does 2012 for you as a player, as a leader, where is that? What does it mean to you in your career?
Well, unfortunately, it's probably one of the best seasons that's going to get lost, right? And when I say that, it also impacts the 2 World Series that I won. And this whole thing is about finishing the season with a win. But my gosh, I mean, the one thing that sticks out to me really is getting eliminated in Game 5 by Detroit. And the Detroit Tigers tipped their hats to us. They literally, Miguel Cabrera, Verlander, Leland were just like, that was unbelievable. 162 games. We were in first place for 4 innings. It just so happened to be game 162 from the 6th inning when Josh Hamilton dropped that ball. We took the lead, technically first place, boom, right there. But I mean, man, look at the guys that team generated. Here comes Stephen Vogt. Here comes Reddick. Here comes Moss. Right? Coco Crispin wrap. Here comes Cespedes, right? There were so many pieces there. Brandon Inge found a little piece of gas in there. Steven Drew came over and was a vet. Donaldson, Travis Blackley, McCarthy, Bart Colon. He got pop tested. If we would have had him, I think we would have got to the next one, tell you the truth. And then they lay an egg against New York, and all of a sudden the A's are freaking in the World Series that year. Yeah, they test. Don't do that stuff. It really hung us up that year. But man, if you're in the big leagues, man, I mean, you just got to do the right things, limit the wrong things, and freaking anything can happen.
You don't get enough credit, and I know I've told you this, that Bob Melvin, we back then, I mean, it's like you remember 2012. All these other years, they fly by, but 2012 always sticks out. And I remember Bob Melvin saying, if there's anybody on this team that's going to manage, it's going to be Jonny Gomes. And what people don't understand is you helped bring out people's personalities. This is just not batting practice and how to work on your swing and get ready. You brought Stephen Vogt out to be on MLB Network and to do his referee thing for the very first time. You had a way of changing and helping mold, I think is the best way to put it, Josh Reddick. There was something about you in that clubhouse as a leader. Talk about what is that like when you see and you need to help and you need to interject. Somebody had to do it. You were the right guy for the right team.
Yeah, I think it goes to how I was groomed, and it goes back to the early Devil Ray days when we were just getting our lunch handed to us in the AL East. But the locker room that I shared, that was kind of the landing spot for a lot of guys, like going to get their 10-year or going to get that extra million or whatever towards the end of the career. My first big league camp, I split lockers between Tino Martinez and Fred McGriff. And I mean, you talk about getting your masters in a month and a half of baseball IQ. That's what it was right there. And then, there's the Cliff Floyds, the Eric Hinskys, the Troy Percivals, and on and on. And man, I mean, it was like grad school, like it really was. And I absorbed so much information for that, felt so lucky. And then I just felt, you owe it to the baseball gods, you owe it to the players, you owe it to everyone to regurgitate that information that you got, whether you're going to be there or whether you're not going to be there. And the one thing that I took most pride in is I grew up in Oakland A's pajamas, right? I'm from the Bay. I'm from NorCal. So, I mean, that's all I ever wanted to do as a young kid was to strap on those white cleats. And I sure, once I got that opportunity, I wasn't going to limp into it by any means. And then from, winning the past in 08 World Series and winning the division 2010 with the Reds, I knew how important the whole team was, right? I knew how important getting the best Josh Donaldson, getting the best Reddick, getting the best Moss, getting the best everybody was the most important. And man, I mean, it's not really the best team that wins, not the best team that goes deep, It's a team that plays together, the team that gets hops, the team that you're going in against, the big starters, and all of a sudden he's on the DL. Boom, we get to skip that guy. And then you get this and you get that, and you look up at the end, and boom, you're in first. And Champagne in the Coliseum, there's not many of them, recently, and I'm fortunate to have that.
Yeah, well, you think about winning in the playoffs. It is so hard. And really, everybody wants to spend all this money and talk about in the preseason why this team's going to win. It really, we are now such in a tournament style that you just need to get in that, you look at the Phillies last year and you just look at certain teams and look at the teams that you were on. It's like you get in and the magic has to happen. You just can't make the magic. You can't go out and sign the magic, trade for the magic. Just what is that like when all of a sudden you realize, wow, we got it. What it is, I don't know exactly, but we got it.
Yeah, man, that goes to one of my slogans with paint on the grass, right? There's only 3 times there's paint on the grass. It's opening day, the All-Star game, and postseason. And you can't change the way you play when there's paint on the grass. And you see some of these teams, they get into the postseason, all of a sudden they want to move their starting rotation. All of a sudden they want to take their 5th guy and put him in the bullpen. That doesn't work. All of a sudden you want to move your lineup. The teams that just stay even keel throughout, those are the teams that do that. Houston Astros, what are we going to do in the playoffs when we go against? Same thing we just did for 162. This guy's slumping. Well, he just ran 162 for me. He's going to snap out sooner than later. And as he doesn't snap out, the other guy's got to pick it up instead of reinventing the wheel in a 5 and 7 game stretch. Now you got, the wild card, right? So now, I mean, it's pressure testing. We got to win today. But what I always say is that wild card game has to be played in June or July. You have to have a runner on second in the 4th inning, 2 outs, and everyone is just like at this. You got to practice the big at bats. You got to be ready for the big at bats. So when they come, it's not foreign.
I think that analogy of paint on the grass could be used for any sport. I mean, you hear all the time that teams get in the Super Bowl and that 2 weeks, everybody tries to trick them up and they're going to start doing, and those teams fail. I love that. Like, hey, how you played throughout. This is who we are. This is how we're going to either win or we're going to lose, but we're going to stay true to who we are. And I think, and it's always 2012 taught me one thing: every game matters. Because if the Rangers had won just one more game in May, one more game in June, we don't track them down. Or if we wouldn't have started so bad, let's say we win one more game while we were just in Japan. every single win. So it drives me nuts when I hear baseball people say, it's early. We're going to evaluate the first month. No, the games at the beginning of the season count the exact same as the games at the end of the season.
I say that all the time, man. I mean, it's 162 games. Watch the race in the division, September 20th. It comes down to 1 or 2, right? It speeds up on you so fast, right? So every game does matter. All the bad calls by the umpire, gosh, those matter. You know, all the punch outs with runner on third, infield bat, when you just need a ground ball, matter. It all piles up. And then you got to have that mentality of September 25th and August 25th and June 25th and April 25th. You have to understand. And I got a taste of that for the first time. And once you get a taste of that postseason, man, you're like, whoa. I remember in 2008, we're in the division against the White Sox. And it was literally the second inning to the leadoff guy, 3-2 pitch. And it's like, there's going to be a walker hit right. It's crowd goes, rah, and you see the magnitude of every single pitch. Slow game, long game, this and that. But when you break down and figure out what's going on in between pitches of the baseball game, you realize how big and how fast it is.
Well, let's end on this. Kids are getting older. How much is Jonny Gomes thinking about what Bob Melvin saw in you all those years? How much are you thinking about maybe being back in uniform and managing someday?
Yeah, I mean, if that opportunity arises, right? I always feel one of the hardest things to get in our game is to be wanted. And if there is an organization out there that wants my services, I would owe it to that organization to honor that. But offices have gotten bigger. There's actually a lot of managers in some of these organizations. Granted, there's only one that wears the uni, so the fit would have to be good. My kids love baseball. We've gone out here in Scottsdale. We go to spring training games. Actually went and checked in on Bob Melvin the other day with the Padres. Baseball is all I know, man. As soon as I retired, I figured that out real quick. The real world ain't it. Ain't it. I'm a baseball guy. Whether it's the youth, whether it's the minor leagues, or whether it's the big leagues, that's what I'm cut out for. So, I'm still young in age, right? Still young at heart. But I've been fortunate enough to play underneath some really good managers, Bob Melvin being one, Lou Piniella, Dusty Baker, just on and on, that I can now, give back. Playing underneath, all 6 organizations, Japan, Mexico. I got a lot of pieces to the pie that, I've lost a lot of games and I've won a lot of games, and I finished 2 seasons with a victory, and those 2 rings I hold pretty dear to my heart along with my teammates. So I got some more in the tank, and that in the tank is giving back. And that's.
Well, I can tell you, no matter what it is, you're a major asset to any organization. Obviously, the pride of Petaluma, and it was so special to have you not once but twice in the A's organization. You're always going to be one of our all-time favorites. We love having you on the program. Be well, my friend. Good to hear about everything with the family going well. And someday I do think you're going to manage, and I can't wait to see it. It'll be a great treat. But let's hook up again soon and enjoy the rest of spring.
How about I come up there and check on you, and we go a little more north and get some grapes in our system?
Come on. We're ready to rock. Whenever you want to come up, we'll take care of it.
You got it. I'll be right in your pocket.
Take care, buddy.
All right, Town.
The great Jonny Gomes join us right here.